that? What is that?
Luke! Luke, is that you?
Oh, shit!
So let's talk about the evil that is Blackburn. Now, in case you're wondering what the hell is that, just know that was a joke if you are from the UK and over 30. If other than that, just take my word for it, it was hilarious. But what we're actually talking about is the 2015 movie Blackburn, also known as Blackburn Asylum. Now, this one is directed by Laurel Chatterand and stars Emile Olcamp, Lachlan Munro and Sarah Lind. Now, the story here is a slightly familiar one. We have a group of 5 teens as they are basically travelling across country, end up running out of gas, or petrol as you call it here in the UK, after a kind of a rock slide kind of cuts them off, and they end up trying to find shelter in this abandoned mine, and they're warned off about going in this mine by some locals at a garage. But nonetheless, they go there, and it turns out this mine used to have an asylum atop of it, which is kind of like burnt to the ground some years ago through the kind of the inmates taking it over. However, some of these crazed inmates may still be lurking around in the tunnels underneath, and of course decide they want to kill our 5 intrepid explorers. Now, this film, I have to say, is very much unoriginal. You have seen this film plenty of times. You've seen it in Wrong Turn, you've seen it in The Hills Have Eyes, you've seen it in Deliverance. But basically, it doesn't mean to say that it's not a fun film, but it's certainly in no means a kind of original movie. And that's going to be its biggest criticism, is this film is very much a paint by numbers kind of mutant attack film. But like I said, it's not to say that it isn't fun. I mean, we'll talk about the positives first of all. I have to say here that the standout for me is the practical effects in regards to the kind of the makeup and the gore. It was very good. We have a kind of a selection of different kind of crazies that are living under this this mine, and they're all quite interesting to look at, with some interesting choices. Some of which are sort of mine themed, shall we say? Others are kind of maybe a little bit different than that. But nonetheless, they all kind of look quite freaky, with some decent prosthetics to kind of make them look hideous and stuff. And there are also some pretty intense, painful scenes, shall we say. Torture, deaths. There's actually a pretty gross one involving some kind of embalming, I think it is. It's pretty grim. But if you like a kind of a good bit of gore and splatter, then this may be the key to you. And I have to say, the characters are all quite kind of well defined as well. It does have some peripheral stuff in it, which I didn't really understand why it was there. There's a rock slide, for example, with a woman who's been crushed in her car, and I didn't really understand why you had to have that, to be honest. It just, the rock slide kind of cuts off the way they're going, but I thought the body in the car was going to go somewhere, and it really doesn't. But the main issue here, like I said, is really the unoriginality of it all, because it is very much just a kind of paint by numbers, kind of killers on the loose type film. There's no real original ideas here. And I suppose, in its defence, there's only so many original ideas you can possibly have in these kind of horror films. But nonetheless, it pretty much treads familiar ground. So I would say, if you like the Wrong Turn sequels, if you like the sequel to, for example, The Hills Have Eyes, then this is probably going to be a film that will satisfy your needs. It's pretty fun. The characters, I have to say, are so cliche as well. I mean, I thought if it can have a cliche story, you can try and get around it by maybe having uncliche characters. But nonetheless, there are your typical kind of, there's the final girl who's the kind of like the moral one. There's the kind of the nice guy. There's the slutty girl. There's the kind of the jerky guy. They're all there basically. All these typical tropes. And I think this day and age, you kind of need to move past that a little bit. And I always wonder, why would the group of people like that be friends? Because they're so different. Anyway, it's pretty fun, I have to say, but it's just very much a kind of a one you'll enjoy, but one you kind of won't really remember. I don't think it's not one I don't think you're going to revisit. Maybe it's, apart from it, that the only real thing it has is kind of like quite vicious death scenes and quite kind of you know, and a reasonable amount of gore, but it also it's just so, you know, so generic. You can pretty much figure out what happens before it even happens, and it's got one of those kind of typical endings as well. It's okay. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it's like I said, it's nothing new. So I'm going to give this movie a slightly above average score with a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave them a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.